Welcome to World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary, Boss, the podcast for busy professionals who want to plan unforgettable trips without the stress. If you're craving adventure, relaxation, or cultural immersion, but feel overwhelmed where to start, this is the show for you. Each week, we dive into travel tips, expert strategies, and actionable advice to help you save time, money, and hassle while helping you design your dream trip. From group getaways to romantic escapes to adventure packed journeys and budget friendly tips, we cover it all. I'm Ross, your host and travel enthusiast, with over a decade of experience balancing a demanding career while also planning trips to over 25 cities in Europe, all over the US, Central America, the Caribbean, and beyond. I've mastered the art of stress free planning, and I'm here to help you do the same. If you love what you hear, don't forget to follow the show, leave us a review, as well as share it with a fellow traveler. I want to make your next adventure the easiest and most memorable yet. Now, on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss. On this week's episode, I'm excited to have Sara Broers, and she is the expert in Midwest travel, all things Iowa as well. I got connected with her through one of our former guests, Amy Piper, and I'm really excited to have her on. How are you doing today, Sarah?
Oh, I'm doing great. Fantastic. I'm so glad I'm here.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to have you on, and I know you just got done with some snowbirding trips down
I
to
did.
the
I did.
Carolinas,
We,
Alabama.
hmm we Midwesterners like to go, we like to be birds and fly south where it's warmer. And with the weather this year, it's crazy everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I know we were talking before, and I was saying Charlotte's gotten more snow this year than I've ever seen in the 6 years I've lived here. So
Wow.
hopefully it's getting better in the Midwest for you now that you're back home.
We got about 30 miles from home before we saw snow yesterday. So that's a good thing.
Well,
But
welcome
of
back to
course,
the
it had to be here, but it is what it is.
Hey, welcome back to the Midwest. But really,
Yeah.
really appreciate you hopping on. I always like to give a light intro for my guest, but don't want to sell you short. So would love to just hear a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I'm a native Iowan, lived in Iowa all my life, and Iowa is just a place I've loved. I married the neighbor boy. I'm an Iowa farm girl, so I moved a mile and a half when I got married 38 years ago. I jokingly say I don't get by with anything because it's family on every side. They know what Sarah's up to. And I know here in the Midwest, people refer to us as flyover country. And I'm not going to argue with that because we do have a lot of planes that fly over the Midwest. But I want you to think when you're flying across the Midwest, we do have some things for you to see down below that you're kind of maybe missing out on. So I just realized that several years ago that we had things in the Midwest that people really didn't understand. And I hopped on Twitter, years ago when Twitter was a thing. I was on Twitter before I'd hopped on Facebook or any other social media channels. And I kind of became the Twitter lady locally, where people kind of rolled their eyes when I was in the local coffee shop. I'm talking like 2009, 8, 9, 10. And people were like, oh my gosh, what is that woman talking about? And I actually started a social media breakfast club right in my hometown. And I passed the torch on that after 10 years of that. It went from 2013 to 2023. I just got too busy with book events and Iowa Books and Midwest Travel Network and those kinds of things. But at that time, after Social Media Breakfast Club, helping thousands of people connect was really amazing and really fun. I made so many connections by starting a social media breakfast club in my hometown. People came from Minneapolis and Des Moines, which is 2 hours from where I live, to attend it. So it was just about helping people connect. And those connections have really helped steer me where I am today. So if you're thinking about starting something different or odd that your local community thinks would be weird, do it.
I love that. Yeah, I know when we were talking when we first met after, and it's all about connections, right? After I had Amy on the
Yeah.
podcast and I asked her who would be a good guest, she introduced us and we got the chance to connect. And just hearing that story was very inspiring. I'm just because you told her and I really liked it. Like when you started that, it's just cool to hear, right? And I just hopped on Twitter, 2008, 2009. Here we are 15 plus years later, and kind of all that compounded. like how many people were showing up to that breakfast club, and then how did it then just continue to grow, and what does that look like today?
Yeah, it's just all those connections that people have made. I look at them that they're doing business together. Not only are they doing business together, they're friends. And that's who they go to. Some of them have formed businesses. I mean, so many things. But then the Midwest Travel Network, I realized that North Iowa was not where it all was. I realized it needed to be bigger. And we had a group called the North Iowa Bloggers, but I did quickly realize, hey, this needs to be Midwest. This needs to be Midwest. How many people in the Midwest? So here's nothing that irks me more. I travel, I can write articles on different places, but I've been there. Okay. When I read a story that's written by somebody on the East Coast or West Coast, not knocking the East Coast or West Coast, but if I read a story from somebody from there and I know they have never set foot here, that just
Yeah.
irks me. I'm like, we have people that really want to write those stories and can tell it from a authentic point of view, a voice with integrity, and tell the story like it is. So Midwest Travel Network, it exists to help connect writers and destinations for people to help the destinations tell their story. And I think authenticity is something that we really all need to focus on. We're in a time now where authenticity, I personally think, matters more than ever before. So find that personal connection, and authenticity is really where it's at. And I think we all need to remember that.
Yeah, I agree. No, those are all great points. And I know when, I first started this, people are like, "Oh yeah, you can write about this even if you've never been there." And just for me, that just doesn't feel right because like for example, if someone's coming from California and coming to Charlotte and they're writing about Charlotte but they've never been there, right? Like why wouldn't you trust someone who's lived there or at least gone there? Same with yourself. And from an authenticity standpoint, nowadays, I mean, there's a blessing and a curse with new technology, AI, right? Just a
Yeah.
lot of different things. And
Yeah.
people are talking about, oh, you can pump out more content or you can do more podcast episodes. You can have faceless YouTube channels, all of that type of stuff. But it's like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, with all of those tools, what's going to happen is people are going to want that type of personal connection and they're going to want to have trusted advisors like yourself, like myself,
Right.
in specific areas, and they're wanting gonna be able to learn more from those types of people. So no, I couldn't agree more. And that's one of my favorite things about hosting the show is bringing experts like yourself because I'm not an expert in the Midwest at all, right? I mean, my fiance is from Ohio, and I know a little bit about that just from learning. But from when Amy started talking about Michigan, when she said, "Hey, you need to talk to Sarah about Iowa and the Midwest," like
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this is you've,
Yeah.
like you said, you've grown up, you've married 38 years ago, right? Your husband, everyone knows what Sarah's doing, right?
Yeah.
The
Well,
lady going to
they
the
do
coffee.
know that. Yeah. They do know that. Exactly. But I like the word you use the word trust, and I think that's something we all need to really lean into as well. Trust those that are around you. So I did. I wrote the book 100 Things to Do in Iowa Before You Die in Perfect Day, Iowa, and I had a large event last night with a co-op. So there are co-ops, an agriculture co-op, a community co-op where farmers all get together for their annual meeting, and I was their speaker. Okay, we had 500 people in the room. 500 people all talking, all sharing stories. I'm like, this is community. This is what it's about. And we talked about Iowa. We did Iowa trivia. So people walked away with trivia. They walked away with my goal was to introduce them to something in Iowa they did not know. And I did succeed.
That's
I
awesome.
did succeed.
I mean, well, if you're writing 100 things to do in Iowa before you die, you obviously have probably a bunch of different good trivia questions, just ways to make up the game and just have
Oh
fun
yeah,
for all of
yeah,
them.
yeah, exactly. So it was good conversation, good fun, and of course there was pie. So that's what counts.
That's always the cherry on top. That's awesome. Just from I mean, since I don't have expertise there, I've never been there, right? And I know a lot of my listeners, most of them are U.S. based. A lot of the times they're thinking, "Hey, I want to do a big international trip, or maybe I want to do something that's just within
Right,
the U.S." And they
right,
see, like we talked about, sometimes AI, sometimes social media is a blessing and a curse, but
right.
what are some reasons why like the Midwest and Iowa is great to travel to? And are there specific places that you always highlight for people?
Well, I like to tell people that you can come to the living in the Midwest is great. We can travel the world and go where all the chaos is and the noise, and we come home to our peace and quiet. That's what I love. And we can be world travelers. We can travel in Iowa specifically without a passport in hand and have some of those authentic experiences. Decorah, Iowa, you can be a Norwegian for a day. Stanton, Iowa. You can be a Swede for a day. I mean, you can do all these things and you don't need a passport in hand. I will tell you this, if you're a Frank Lloyd fan, Frank Lloyd Wright fan, you should be visiting the Midwest and you should be visiting Mason City, Iowa. The last known hotel in the world designed by Frank Lloyd Wright is in Mason City, Iowa, and you can stay there. Wrap your head around that. The last known
Yeah.
hotel in the world. So
Yeah.
it's
That's
incredible.
that's
It's
some history.
incredible.
What
It's
about
incredible.
so just from like a beginner standpoint, from like, okay, if you're traveling from just by plane, you're coming in, like where do you recommend, say I have 5 to 7 days, right? Or I have a long weekend. Just what you mentioned
You
some
know what you
city.
could do is fly into Minneapolis.
Hmm.
Fly into Minneapolis, and Iowa is an hour and a half, 2 hours south of the airport. I would seriously suggest fly into Minneapolis and do a week road trip. Come in down to Iowa, go to Mason City and Clear Lake and see the Buddy Holly crash site and visit the Surf Ballroom where Buddy Holly played his last concert. Go down to the Des Moines area and see the bridges of Madison County. But on your way there, stop in Fort Dodge, Iowa, and see Iowa's tallest mural. It's actually right behind me.
I
There's a
love it.
grain silo. It's 110 feet tall, and it is the people and faces of Fort Dodge, Iowa. It's pretty cool.
That is.
And then work your way around, go to the Black Hills. Go to the Black Hills of South Dakota, and then come back on I-90 and go into the cities and catch your flight home. And you'll have an epic Midwest road trip that you'll be talking about for years.
That's great. What about time of year?
Oh, July or
Yeah.
August. End of August, when the kids have all went back to school, your lodging rates are cheaper, your airfare is cheaper. You can save a little bit of money if you
Yeah.
can travel that time of year. July and August, Iowa specifically is incredibly beautiful. And I have people tell me that all the time. And it is true because the cornfields everything's green and
Hmm.
lush and it's incredibly beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I like that. I feel like that when you're kind of coming up on Labor Day, a lot of the times that's like the best time. You're right on that shoulder season. Most people's summer vacations who have kids are up. So that's good to know. And then what about just,
Hmm.
say you're a sports fan, right? I always Iowa
Hmm.
football, Iowa basketball.
Iowa, you got to go to the University of Iowa and go to a
Yeah.
football game and do the wave.
Yeah.
Do the wave with the kids at the hospital. I mean, that's a thing in itself.
Nice.
And you got to go to Indianapolis and watch Caitlin Clark play basketball.
Yeah. That is, yeah, that's, I mean, she crushed it and
I'm,
just that
yeah, think of what she's done for the Midwest in
yeah,
general.
yeah, Midwest women's
It's
basketball,
huge.
everything. Just
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm a diehard basketball fan. You can't see I have a Jordan jersey behind me with my background, but yeah, so in anything basketball, that's why I asked selfishly is like when I had Amy on, I'm like, okay, if I want to go do a trek of Michigan State, Michigan, Marquette,
Hmm.
everything, right? Like
Hmm.
what's my route there?
Hmm.
So,
hmm But Iowa, you could actually Iowa and Iowa State athletics are also incredible to watch as well
mhm.
in the state of Iowa. So you have those games, and we Iowans like our sports.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. What about, so, you mentioned a 5 to 7 day itinerary there for someone
Yeah.
who's coming in, but are there other places? Because a lot of times I like off the beaten path. I like some hidden gems,
Oh,
maybe smaller.
Medora, North Dakota. You need to head to Medora, North Dakota. If you want something off the beaten path, it sits at the south unit of Theodore Roosevelt National Park,
Okay.
and the Presidential Library will be opening in 2026. My advice, though, go in 2025 when you can see the town before the Presidential
Yeah.
Library opens. It's a town of 123 people.
Wow. Okay.
And it's incredible. It's a little old west town. The North Dakota Hall of Fame Cowboy Museum is there. You can go to the Medora musical. The longest running outdoor musical in the country is in Medora, North Dakota. It's 27 miles from the Montana border on I-94. You can take an epic road trip across North Dakota on I-94. And I know somebody that's listening to this, somebody that's watching this is saying, this lady's crazy. I don't want to go to North Dakota for a week. You do want to go to North Dakota for a week. The event I had was at last night. The lady that sat next to me had spent last week ice fishing at Devil's Lake in North Dakota.
That's
And she said,
awesome.
that is the best ice fishing spot in the country. I said, I know, I've heard.
That's good to know. Well, hey, for any of my people who want to go ice fishing, Take that
Devil's Lake,
tip.
North Dakota is where it's at. And she said
And
the ice, it was super thick. And she said they had so many fish, they didn't know what to do with them. So
oh
great
wow.
problem.
Okay, good to know. Logistically, what's flying in? What's your best route?
To Medora,
Yeah.
if you're going to go to North Dakota, oh, fly into Bismarck. You can fly into Bismarck,
Okay.
North Dakota if you want to be about 2 hours away. But
Okay.
again, you can fly into Minneapolis. And I-94 goes right out of Minneapolis through St. Cloud, Minnesota. And you start at Fargo, North Dakota, go to Jamestown, North Dakota, Bismarck. You've got towns all along there that will keep you busy. And I mean, you could spend more than a week. So, and you're still saying North Dakota has all that. And I'm just going to tell you, North
Yeah.
Dakota will keep you busy.
Okay. That's
And you go August. Usually, August, the canola fields. Canola is a crop that's grown in North Dakota, and the fields turn a beautiful yellow, fluorescent yellow. That just when that crop is at that point, it's incredibly beautiful. I'm an Iowa farm girl, and I've never seen a field as pretty as a canola field.
good to know. Okay. Yeah, we went up to we my cousin got married about 10 years ago in Colorado, and it was in June, and we went out there and we went we just did a trip up through Wyoming, and we went up to South Dakota and did, everything up there, but we haven't been up to North Dakota yet.
Oh yeah, North Dakota's a lot of times the 50th state for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, I wish we had more time. That is good to know. Yeah, we did Mount Rushmore. We had to see that since we
Oh,
were
the
there.
classic, the
Yeah, yeah, the
classic.
the the classic. And my parents are like, "Well, we're taking off a week and a half," and we're like, "Okay, we're down to go." But yeah, now
Well, South Dakota, DeSmet, South Dakota, the Laura Ingalls Wilder homestead. Take a grandchild or your young children there. It's amazing. What young child wouldn't like to sit and drive a horse with a buggy?
yeah,
Who wouldn't
that's
like to do that, right? Sign me up.
yeah,
I did that with my granddaughter last summer. She was 5, had the time of her life. Just
that's awesome.
incredible. And you can sleep in a covered wagon on the prairie. It
Okay,
is not a luxury wagon. It is a memorable night of sleep.
where how do you book that? Is there where can you book that?
DeSmet, South Dakota, DESMET,
Okay,
South Dakota, the Laura Ingalls Homestead. Book your
okay,
covered wagon now because they do sell out. And I loved it because kids were out there just running around frolicking. Where else can kids do that today? Where else can kids just run? And
yeah,
the dark skies, if you're into dark skies and want to see the Milky Way, see all of these things, the Smet, South Dakota, I'm telling you, covered wagon. A
I'm look
gentleman that was next to my granddaughter and I, he had 3 boys with him there, 3 young boys. And he said to me, he said, my wife booked this for us. And I said, oh, he said, I really didn't know what I was getting into, but he said, this turns out it's the best thing for his kids he'd ever done.
I'm
So
looking at
something different.
I'm looking at it right now on this is cool. This is
Yeah,
very cool.
that's in South Dakota. Like I said, DeSmet, South Dakota. And there's also in town, you can see, if you're into the Laura Ingalls Wilder books at all, in town, the school that Carrie and Laura Ingalls attended is actually in town, part of a museum. But there is original flooring in that, a section of that flooring that is original. That is where Laura and Carrie Ingalls walked in the
Okay.
school. So there's a little bit of history there.
See, we're 20 minutes in and I've already learned so much more than I knew about anything. That's one of my favorite parts about hosting this and bringing experts like yourself is you learn so many different things. And this is for everyone has different travel styles. And then I
Yeah.
can share this and people who want to do that, people who are listening who it may be a quick drive for them, or they may be able to drive or just have a quick flight. It's just making it more accessible.
You never know. Sioux Falls, South Dakota is the great place to fly into for that, for
Okay.
DeSmet. If you're going to go to DeSmet, Sioux Falls, South Dakota is a great town. That's a great town anyway. Great
Okay.
foodie town. If you're
Okay.
into Food Network showcases a lot of restaurants that are in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So if that's kind of your thing.
Okay.
Another place I want to talk about is Shipshewana, Indiana, the Amish community. Shipshewana, you can experience the Amish community, but they also have a great music scene there. So if you like all genres of music, they have concerts all year long in Shipshewana, Indiana.
Okay. And then best place to get there from. I'm just thinking easy for
South
people.
Bend or Chicago. South
Okay.
Bend or Chicago. South Bend, Indiana, or flying to Chicago.
Okay.
It's a short, not too far from Chicago. It's drivable, but
Okay.
Shipshewana, Indiana is just one of those Midwest towns, and go have dinner in an Amish home. reach out to the tourism office there, and they will connect you with the people where you can go have an Amish meal with an Amish family. Now, where else? There's not many places in the country you
Yeah.
can do that.
No.
So that's another unique experience in the Midwest that there is to offer. Another place I want to talk about in the Midwest, though, Branson, Missouri. I think a lot of people have heard of it with Silver Dollar City. It's been ranked through USA Today as America's #1 theme park for a few years now. But Christmas time is the really magical time to go to Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. The lights, one of the best lighted holiday displays I've ever seen in my life.
Good to know. Okay. And where is that logistically located or
Branson is near Springfield, Missouri,
Okay.
and which is about 3 hours south of Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to fly into Kansas City and see some of Missouri, you're driving through Missouri, or you could go on the Kansas side to get to Branson. You could do a loop actually if you're looking to go to Missouri, Kansas, check off some states. That'd
Yeah.
be a good way to do
Yep.
that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can, and if you're a sports fan, you can go in that early September time, go see a Chiefs game potentially. And
Hmm.
if you're going to Indiana, flying into
Hmm.
South Bend, you could, for Notre Dame fans, I know a couple, you could go to a Notre Dame football game.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You can do that. And we were just snowbirding. We were snowbirds in Alabama. And we Iowans and we Midwesterners like our beaches. I'm going to give this a plug here because do you know that Alabama has beaches? A
Gulf
lot of
Shore.
people don't know that Alabama has 32 miles of beautiful beaches. They do.
Where'd you go? Where did you go?
We were in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach,
Okay.
and there's so much to see and do there. And we love the bike trail, the US Banyan Backcountry Trail. It is ranked as the #1 bicycle trail in the country. And we love to ride it. It is a really awesome trail. And Iowa, we have great bicycle trails. We had our bikes in our car. We traveled with our bikes for 6 weeks, and they're fold up electric e-bikes that we have. So they fit in our Subaru Forester with all of our luggage. We were loaded, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah.
But we travel with our bikes, and that bicycle trail in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, Alabama, if you like to ride bikes, it's a fantastic place. If you fly into Pensacola to go to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, keep in mind there are bicycles that you can use for free in the park to ride the trail. They're not e-bikes, but they're regular bikes that you can ride, and you can rent regular bicycles and e-bikes from bicycle shops to ride the trail as well.
Okay. That's a good plug. Yeah, my fiance's family grew up going down to Gulf Shore, so like I hear stories and all of that. I have not been, but that's good to know just from a biking perspective and even Orange Beach.
Yeah,
That
and food. The food scene is fantastic. I've yet to find a bad restaurant. I travel for bread pudding. Gulf Shores and Orange Beach have spoiled me in the bread pudding world. I'm now a bread pudding snob, and I struggle to find really good bread pudding in the Midwest. It's reality. I find some here and there, but I know when I'm in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, I'm not going to find all the bread pudding is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now see, I'm just continuing to learn. Now I'm hungry. All the food talk, all the bread pudding. I'm it's getting close to lunch. That's
Yeah, yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
I'm
But yeah, if
curious.
you go to my website, travelwithsarah.com, I have several stories on Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. I've spent a lot of time down there. There's a lot of Iowa stories, a lot of Midwest stories, but I do have a lot of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach things on my websites as well. So if you're looking for a place to stay, if you're looking for things to do, I've got all that in one place for you.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at your website before we talked the first time, and then just earlier, just to see, and I saw a bunch of that pop up. And then what? I mean, obviously, you're so well connected in the Midwest Travel Network. I'm sure if you don't
Yeah.
have something, you have other people that you can connect others with. Is there anything else just like that you're constantly giving people updates, whether that's like a podcast, a newsletter, anything like that, that you help people out with who are interested?
Oh gosh, yeah. So I have my newsletter. You can sign up for my newsletter actually on my website. And I do tell people my newsletter consists of a lot of content from Iowa, North Dakota, Kansas, and Alabama. But I also have information from all around the country. Most of my travel is domestic. I do like to cruise, so you'll see some cruising information on there as well once in a while. And but those are the states that most of my
Mhm.
content is around. So if you're interested in those states, you will enjoy my newsletter. Like I said, there's other stuff sprinkled in there, but that's the majority of my content. Abilene, Kansas, I want to give them a shout out. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Presidential Library and Museum, is in Abilene, Kansas, and they're also home to the world's largest belt buckle.
Okay.
So
You like belts, you got to
Abilene,
go there.
Kansas, right along Kansas I-70, west of Kansas City, and you could fly into Kansas. You could do an awesome trip across Kansas on Kansas I-70 and fly into Kansas City. I mean, you would have an epic road trip. So, and I have information on that on my website as well. Like I said, Kansas and North Dakota, I spent a lot of time in those states as well, along with Iowa and Alabama.
Okay. Yeah. And for listeners, we'll have all of Sarah's social links that she just mentioned. That way, however you like to digest your content, whether it's reading, whether it's Instagram,
Yes.
Pinterest, video, like we'll have all of that so you can go
And
in.
since we've talked, my husband and I started a YouTube channel,
Oh, let's go.
Crush It, Travel, and Thrive.
I
For
love
the
that.
50 plus retired traveler. My husband just retired from UPS after 30 years.
Oh, good for
So
that's awesome.
we started a YouTube channel. So you can find that link on travelwithsarah.com. So I'd love it if
I
you give us a subscribe there.
ab,
We're ready to roll. We're rolling.
I
Today, we just released a video yesterday on kayaking in Florida.
I love that. Well, hey, I have my parents who will need to subscribe to that because they're starting to travel more and more now that they just that my dad's retired and my mom's close to it. So
Oh, we've got the information. We've got it
that's
for them.
that's perfect. What? So I'm just curious, like grow because you talked about this growing up, right? You knew
Yeah.
all your neighbors.
Okay.
You're
Just a
from,
second. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Keep going.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, you knew all your neighbors. You grew up right
Yeah.
in Iowa, like in the Midwest. How do you feel like that upbringing just influenced your passion for travel and like to go explore the world?
Oh gosh, my dad we always got to go on a family trip, camping trip after the beans were walked and after the county fair was held. So we traveled in a motorhome. It was fun. Got to see a lot of places in the country.
Very cool. Where'd you guys go?
We traveled to Florida a lot, and guess what? Weeki Wachee, where the mermaids were,
Hmm.
Weeki Wachee Springs. I was there as a child in 1972, and I just relived my memory last a couple weeks ago. Went and saw the mermaids again.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool.
We traveled out west to Canada fishing, camping in spots that most people would never go to in a
Hmm.
motorhome. But it was fun. It was great. And I'm grateful that I had that experience. And I'm grateful that my parents gave me that travel bug.
I agree, and I think that's when I bring a lot of guests on. That's I like to ask that question because
Yeah.
most people maybe it wasn't, oh, we went on all these trips. It may have just been one or two road trips that then sparked your curiosity, which then led to, well, this is fun, and now
Yeah.
I can choose kind of what I want to do. So why not?
Yeah. And so many stories to tell. So many
Yeah,
stories to tell.
and that's the
So
best
that,
part is those memories and experiences that are built up for sure. When so I a lot of my audience is some are first time travelers, some are right they want to start traveling, they have the means, but they don't know where to start. Like I guess if you were to say here's one or I know you've mentioned a lot of places, but just to like get started so they it's very simple, where would you say in the
your own
Midwest?
backyard.
Yeah.
Your own backyard. I can guarantee you there's something in your own backyard that's really awesome that people travel thousands of miles to come to see that you have never went to see.
Yep.
Go
That's
see that because I can tell you right now, the day will come where you're going to say, "Oh, they closed and I never got to go there." Go see it now so they can stay open.
now I realize why Amy connected me with you because her answer was the exact same thing.
But it's true. It is very true. It is true. I hear that from people all the time that they never
Hmm.
went and never did it. And now they can't do it. They're not physically able to go and do it. Do it while you can. Don't just wait and say, I'm going to do it someday, because I'm going to tell you right now that you're not guaranteed that someday is going to come.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to get out and travel now. Don't wait for that someday.
No.
Just do it.
Exactly. That's one of my goals is helping people realize that here in their 20s and 30s of don't just say, "Oh, I'm busy with work. I'm busy with this." Like be intentional, prioritize yourself and plan that trip out because once you do it once and you say, "Oh, this is getting a little easier." You're going to not be as overwhelmed. You'll be more confident and then it's just going to
Yep.
compound because you hear so many stories of people who don't and they wait for that someday and either a
Yep.
health issue happens, something
Yep.
happens, life's different. So, no, I
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. And then what about just anything upcoming that you have that you're excited about?
Midwest
Destinations,
Travel Network,
projects?
our annual conference is in Grand Island, Nebraska, June 12th through the 14th. If you're interested in being a travel writer or wondering what is all this about, how can I be a content creator? If you want to create content online, is this a thing? It is a thing. And if you want to be inspired, you want to hear some people that have had some success and some failures in the things that they've done. Our conference is a great place to make that connection. And if you go to MidwestTravelNetwork.com, you can see our speakers and learn all about it. And hey, if Nebraska is a state you want to come visit, you've not been to Nebraska, I'm giving you a reason to come.
There you go. No, that's perfect. One other last question because you brought this up, and I'm curious because a lot of my listeners are either having that first kid, maybe having their second, but you just said you took your granddaughter on
Mhm.
that trip, right? I guess what is some of your advice for people who have one kid, two kids, and how do they like mix that with maybe just their kids or even their grandparents and building out that and
Just
what?
make that multi-generational trip, make it happen, and make sure everybody's on board in the family.
Yeah,
Families are mixed. Some people have mixed feelings on they don't want their grandchildren to travel with a grandparent or somebody other than the parent. But just make sure everybody's on board and just do it. I mean, make it happen. That memory. But here's a tip. And then for a Christmas gift, take a picture of you with that child. If it's a parent, whatever it is, take a picture and give it as a Christmas gift.
hmm,
That picture will be something that that child will cherish for a long time.
yeah, yeah.
That's a
No, that's
memory. That's an easy gift. Kids get so many things today. Give them something that's memorable that they can look at and say, hey, I had fun with dad on that trip, or I really had a good time with grandma.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, that's a tradition is gifting experiences, whether it's a
Yeah.
trip, whether it's a concert, whether it's right. I think the one gift that my mom said she loved the most was just a plane ticket to go fly from us to go skiing with her brothers. It's you always can
Yeah.
have more
I'm gonna
things.
lose you here. Oh God. Here we go.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's really helpful. Just walking through, you know, for family, multi-generational, I agree. It's just always taking that trip, getting everyone on board, and yeah, it's just take the trip.
And
That's the best
you'll have
advice.
moments where you're all going to be wondering if you do a multi-generational trip with like 10, 20 people, you're going to have moments where you're like, why did we do this or what are we doing? And I guarantee you, 3 weeks after you get home, you're going to be like, that's why we did it.
Yep.
Because
The
you're
stress
going to have
leading.
your moments. It's just
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Yep. Exactly. Well, Sarah, I appreciate you coming on. This was very helpful, not only from just destinations in the Midwest and much more, as well as just where listeners can find you and start to travel more, as well as also what's coming up for the Midwest Travel Network. Is there anything else that you want to share? Any other
And you can
questions?
100 things to do in Iowa before you die or Perfect Day Iowa. You can grab those at uh, Amazon's probably your best bet all across the country.
Okay.
Barnes and Noble in Iowa does carry my books. And if you're in the state of Iowa, but if you want to come to Iowa, go grab those books at Amazon or Reedy Press, Reedy press.com. 100 Things to Do in Iowa Before You Die. Just it's a great travel book. Travel guide. It's not super heavy, super thick, but it's a way for you to get started
Hmm.
exploring the state of Iowa.
Perfect. And we'll share that. We can share that in the show notes. And listeners, if you want to go check out Sarah again, those social media links we'll share, her website, also the book. I think there's just a lot of different valuable resources you can check out. So whichever one you want to get started with, go ahead and do it. And again, make sure you follow on the YouTube channel. That's exciting that
Yes,
you
I'm
all just
excited. I'm excited. I tell you, it all started hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park in December. That's when it
awesome.
started.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm excited to watch your journey on that and learn some best practices from you as well. But appreciate
Okay.
everyone tuning in. If you like the episode, make sure you give it a 5-star rating and review. Share it with a family or friend that would gain value from it. And if you are looking to get started traveling and don't know where to start, we have a stress-free travel starter kit that you can grab at our website at itineraryboss.com. And we'll look forward to tuning in next week. Thanks, everyone. Have a good